thin fog clings to the dawn grasses of the greasy grass valley, winding low like breath across a dying fire. The river, sluggish and silver in first light, moves without sound, as if afraid to disturb what waits along its banks. In the hush before motion, a horse nickers softly, its nostrils steaming in the cold. A crow scout, wrapped in a buffalo robe, presses his hand to the earth. It is warm beneath the frost, trembling with something unseen. The hills are alive with stillness, too still for morning. Not a bird stirs, no prairie dog calls, only the breeze whispering through cottonwoods like a voice that has not yet decided whether to warn or mourn. Somewhere in the west beyond the ridgeline, a camp breathes in silence. Thousands of tents, lodges, and fire pits. Thousands of lives. In the center of that camp, a voice rises, not loud, not proud, but low and even, as though shaped by the long sleep of stones. It is Sitting Bull, chanting his vision into the morning smoke. Around him, warriors and elders gather in muted awe. His eyes are closed, but his words see further than the ridge. He speaks of soldiers falling from the sky, upside down, their arms flailing like leaves in autumn wind. No one moves. The fire crackles beneath the prophecy. It is not a story. It is a warning spoken in the language of dreams. Elsewhere, Crazy Horse braids rawhide into the hilt of his knife. His hands are steady, his face unreadable. The air smells of boiled marrow and bear fat. A woman ladles thick stew into horn bowls, the weight of hunger held at bay by ceremony. She hums a song from childhood, her voice no louder than the steam from her pot. Beside her, Buffalo Calf Road woman sharpens a lance with a flake of obsidian. The stone catches the light, like a glimpse of destiny, fleeting and sharp. And across the valley, on another hill, the 7th Cavalry adjusts their saddles and murmurs half-forgotten prayers. Their uniforms, stiff with dust and sweat, carry the scent of stale pipe smoke and dried beef. General George Armstrong Custer squints into the eastern glow, his silhouette crisp against the sky. His coat flutters in the wind like a pennant not yet torn. He writes no final letter. He offers no prayer. He believes still in his own immortality. Behind him, a bugle rings out, too cheerful for the hour. The horses snort at the sudden sound, hooves stamping in irritation. One of the scouts, Mitch Boyer, half Sioux, half French, lowers his eyes. He knows the lay of the land. He has seen the size of the village. But the orders have come, and the orders will be followed. He fingers a rusted key at his neck, a relic from his mother's hand, a key that once opened a chest full of stories, now lost to time. It swings gently in the breeze, as if unlocking a future already written. The cavalry descends, each boot crushing flowers that bloomed before treaties were broken. Dust rises in their wake, not yet blood, but close. They believe they ride toward triumph. They ride instead into memory. The ridgeline is deceptive. Beyond it lies a village larger than any white man has dared imagine. Over 10,000 people, 10,000 lives. Children play near the river, unaware. Women hang hides to dry on willow frames. A dog barks at a crow. And then the drum beats begin. Not from one lodge, but from many. A wave of sound rolling like thunder beneath the earth. Buffalo Calf Road, woman mounts her horse. Her braids are bound with red cloth. She kisses her brother's forehead, his eyes bright with youth, too bright. She rides toward the banks, the lance at her side humming in her grip. The first shots break the stillness. Not many, just a few, the kind that might be overlooked in a drunken border skirmish. But here, they bloom like thunderclaps. Warriors rise from the tall grasses, from riverbeds, from shadows. The land itself seems to spit them forth. One cavalryman dismounts, rifle shaking in his hands. He sees only movement, feathers, dust, painted faces, smoke. Then the arrow strikes, and the scream he gives is not of pain but disbelief. Custer watches from the hill. He sees his men encircled, scattered like bones across a plain. He does not curse. He does not shout. He simply rides, eyes wide, mouth closed. The orders he gave echo back to him now, hollow as a shell casing. There is no command here, only collapse. Sitting Bull does not fight. He stands at the edge of the village, his staff planted in the earth, and watches the prophecy unfold. Behind him, a boy begins to weep. Not out of fear, but awe. Crazy Horse rides without armor, bare chest streaked in white dust. He moves like the wind, seen only after he's passed. A bullet catches his horse's flank. But he does not falter. He rides into the dust, and from it does not emerge alone. Buffalo Calf Road woman sees her brother fall. She screams, one note high and tearing, and turns her horse. She rides through the crush, through fire and smoke, and finds him. She lifts him across her saddle. But it is not the rescue that defines her. It is what follows. She turns. Her horse rears. The sun breaks through the smoke just long enough to catch her eyes, and then she strikes. Custer falls. He falls not in slow motion, but in silence. A silence so complete it hums. His saber is gone. His hand is empty. His face is unreadable. The greasy grass flows beside him, slow and patient. And now it is done. The battlefield, once alive with movement, begins to still. The smoke lifts. The cries fade. What remains is not victory or vengeance, but silence. A single feather, black-tipped, floats down and lands on a crushed patch of grass. The river carries blood and broken arrows out to places they will not be found. A beaded moccasin lies untied in the mud. The camera holds, still. The scout's rusted key lies in the dirt, its chain snapped. It glints once in the light, then fades beneath a shadow. This is not the end of war. This is the echo before another. But for now, on this forgotten frontier, the land remembers. It always does. And somewhere, far from the cries of men, the bones of the fallen sleep beneath cottonwood and sky. A silver mist hangs low over the plains, wrapped tight around the ankles of horses like the hem of a burial shroud. Somewhere in the distance, the sun waits just beneath the horizon, unsure whether to rise on such a day. In this liminal hour, before clarity, before consequence, a man stands alone atop a low ridge. His silhouette is clean, his chin high, his buttons glinting faintly like coins scattered at the feet of the dead. George Armstrong Custer, the golden boy of the Union cavalry, is 36 and already dying, though he does not know it yet. His boots are polished, his gloves soft as altar cloth, but beneath the polish lingers something thinner than courage and more brittle than pride. He has ridden far to arrive at this moment, chased not by duty, but by memory, haunted by applause that has long since faded into whispers. Behind him, the soldiers stir. Their breath smokes into the cold air. Men too young to know they are walking into history's trap. One fiddles with a medal, another with a letter never sent. The air smells of stale tobacco, hoarse sweat, and the sour weight of rationed coffee. A sergeant mutters under his breath, half prayer, half doubt, but no one answers. This morning will not be blessed. To the east, the first notes of birdsong are swallowed by wind. Over the ridge lies a village that stretches farther than the eye can hold. Miles of teepees and morning fires, children's laughter still unbroken, dogs chasing shadows. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho breathe together in one living body, warm in the cradle of the valley. Here is no threat, no provocation, only life, defiantly unremoved. But Custer sees something else. He sees numbers as a mistake. He sees land not as legacy but as prize. His mind is not filled with the cries of the displaced, but with the roar of Congress, the applause of newspapers, the echo of men in drawing rooms who will never hold a rifle nor smell blood in smoke. He sees glory, and in glory he sees himself. In another lifetime, he might have been a schoolteacher or a politician, trading wit for comfort. But war made him someone. War gave him a mirror, and in it he became myth. He cannot let that mirror break. He turns to his men and gives the order. Down in the valley, the camp stirs with the rhythm of ordinary survival. A mother braids her daughter's hair with a string of river-polished beads. An elder fingers a pouch of tobacco and offers thanks to the wind spirits. Beside a smoky fire, a young boy feeds scraps of dried bison to a stray dog. There is no alarm, no panic. They do not yet know that death rides the ridge above them, buttoned and smiling, but others do. Sitting Bull breathes deeply, seated in silence among painted hides. He has seen the vision. Soldiers falling from the sky, face down, arms reaching. He has told them, warned them. The land speaks to him as plainly as a man. And today it is said, they will come and they will fall. In the distance, Crazy Horse sharpens a blade with the slow reverence of a priest. He hums a battle song older than memory, not for fury, but for focus. He does not speak much. He does not need to. The ancestors are near. They breathe in the cottonwood trees. They wait in the rivers. As the cavalry descends, a Crow scout rides just behind the vanguard. His name is Curly. He is young, but already his heart beats with regret. He had warned Custer. He had spoken of the numbers. He had seen the village with his own eyes. But ambition is a noise that drowns out truth, and now he rides toward a silence that will outlast all voices. The first shots are not loud. They snap through the air like firecrackers, light and quick. Birds scatter, horses scream, Men shout in confusion, not yet in pain. But then the arrows fall, dozens, hundreds, from behind ridges, from within thickets, from places no soldier expected. The cavalry breaks formation. The line collapses into chaos. Bugles scream in vain. Dust clouds rise, swallowing uniform and flesh alike. There is no front. There is no retreat, only collapse. Custer rides hard, but there is nowhere to go. He sees his brother fall, arms flailing like a marionette with cut strings. He sees Boyer, the half-shoe scout, lift his rifle once, twice, then vanish into smoke. He sees the sky above him go dark with birds circling. And still, he does not pray. The plains are not quiet now. They wail, they scream. But beneath that chaos runs something quieter, a kind of sorrow not yet voiced. A warrior falls and clutches a braid of hair as if it were a child. A cavalryman bleeds into a Bible page, lips moving on the word deliver. One boy, perhaps 16, crawls toward a creek, dying not of a wound, but of thirst. Amid the dust, a woman rides. Buffalo Calf Road woman, her dress streaked with blood, her lance darkened with ash. She does not cry out. She rides like a storm long held back. She finds her brother amid the fallen. She lifts him onto her horse. She turns and charges, not away, but deeper into the fray. And when she strikes, she does not miss. The moment of Custer's death is not marked by a grand sound. It is quiet. The final blow is almost gentle, a stumble, a silence, a breath exhaled that does not return. Above the battlefield, the sun finally breaks through the smoke. It shines not on victors, but on survivors, on women tending the wounded, on warriors burying kin, on children learning the word massacre, not from books, but from the bones of fathers. In the grass near Last Stand Hill, a locket lies open. Inside, a faded face of a woman who will never know what happened here. Her name is not recorded. Her sorrow is assumed. The smoke lifts. The battlefield stills. But in the stillness, a question lingers, not of who won, but of who remembered, and how, and why. Because memory is not what survives the sword. It is what rises from the dust once the swords have rusted. The wind passes low through the cottonwoods, whispering like an old woman telling secrets to the grass. Beneath their pale trunks, the earth is loose, scooped, turned, consecrated. A Lakota burial scaffold stands nearby, its bones lashed with sinew and sagging in the morning sun. The air smells of charcoal and sage, of blood long spilled and never cleansed. This is not a battlefield, not yet. It is a cradle of memory, and beneath its soil lie the stories we buried too quickly. Insects hum around the scaffold, drawn by salt, by absence, by reverence. Feathers tremble in the breeze, tied to posts, fluttering like silent chimes. Somewhere, unseen, a hawk cries. And from beneath the loose branches, a boy watches. His name is Red Horn, no older than 12, his hair bound in a single braid down his back. He has come here with his grandmother to pay tribute to the bones of his uncle. She whispers in Lakota, hands steady, her prayer carried into the trees. The boy's eyes, dark as whetstone, fix on the sky above the burial rack. He sees nothing, but he feels the eyes looking back. This land is thick with the dead, not just from war, but from hunger, from disease, from treaties broken like brittle birch bark. The valley remembers, the water remembers. Even the grass, when trampled, bends not with surrender, but in mourning. Across the valley, the soldiers do not see this. They do not feel it. They camp near the riverbank, where the soil is damp and smells of clay. Their boots press into sacred ground with no knowledge of what lies beneath. Custer walks among them, his spurs jingling, a rustle of command sewn into every step. He smiles too much. He talks of legacy, of destiny. His men are quiet, some believe. Most obey. Boyer knows better. The scout, born of a Sioux mother and a French trader, watches the trees with something close to dread. He has seen the number of lodges. He has smelled the wood smoke drifting east, and he carries a rusted key around his neck, his mother's, once used to unlock a trunk of winter blankets and mourning beads. Now it unlocks nothing but memory. He rubs it with his thumb as he speaks to Custer once more of the numbers, the danger, the land. But ambition does not listen, and pride is a terrible compass. In the distance, the camp stirs. The sun rises slow, gold diffused through smoke. Lakota women boil marrow in iron pots, sweetgrass smoldering beside them. Men speak in low voices, organizing, listening to the wind. Some paint their faces. Others tie red cloth around their arms, not for show, but for remembrance, for resolve. A girl braids her brother's hair and sings under her breath, an old war song, its words too heavy for her young voice. The tension builds slowly, like the wind before a storm. Every bird call becomes a signal, every snapped twig a warning. And in this stillness, the silence feels sacred, like something that should not be broken. But it is. The first shot cracks like a bone splintering in frost. A scream follows. Then two, then a dozen. The cavalry under Custer's direction has crossed into sacred ground. Their rifles shine in the light like teeth. Horses rear, arrows fly. The world ignites. Redhorn's grandmother pulls him to the ground. "Close your eyes," she says, "and remember the river." But the boy cannot. His eyes stay open as the valley erupts. From the ridgelines and tree hollows, Lakota and Cheyenne warriors charge. They come not from a single direction, but from all, like the land itself has risen to defend its bones. Crazy Horse rides with no war cry, only the wind behind him. Painted white streaks across his chest, his braids bound with bear fur, he seems more spirit than man. Around him, the air shimmers with heat, with dust, with vengeance. The cavalry collapses. The formation splits, then shatters. Men scream orders that no one hears. Bowyer's key is gone, lost somewhere in the churned mud. Custer rides in circles now, seeking position, seeking clarity. He finds neither. A Lakota warrior falls beside Red Horn, arrow through the throat. His eyes are wide. The boy reaches toward him. The grandmother pulls him back. "Not yet," she says. "The land is not finished." In the chaos, Buffalo Calf Road woman rides again. Her hair flies behind her like a black banner. She fights not for glory, but for memory. Her brother's blood is on her dress. She rides toward the center of the collapse, her lance cutting through confusion. Somewhere in that dust, Custer falls. Not as a martyr, not as a general, but as a man who mistook silence for submission. And then, stillness. It does not come quickly. It trickles in, between gunfire, between breath, between the beating of drums now slowing. The battlefield smolders. The air smells of sweat, of ash, of something ancient stirred loose. Red Horn and his grandmother walk among the fallen. They do not touch the dead. They hum low songs, and the boy presses his fingers into the soil, feeling for what is beneath. He finds no bones, only warmth. The land, despite the slaughter, is not yet cold. The camera pans wide. We see not a field of victory, but a memory written in footprints, bloodstains, crushed sage. A single beaded earring lies in the dirt, its mate forever lost, an unfinished prayer etched in soot upon a rock. Above it all, the cottonwoods sway. They whisper again, not of revenge, but of ritual. They speak for the bones beneath them, the lives forgotten by headlines and monuments, and they do not weep, because the land remembers, and it waits, not for justice, but for story. The drumbeat comes before the sun, low and hollow, as if the earth itself were stirring in its sleep. One slow thump, then silence. Another, then silence again. Not a rhythm for dancing, a rhythm for remembering, for preparing. The wind does not move, as if even it waits to hear what will follow. In the valley, morning crouches behind the mountains, hesitant to touch the lodges below. Smoke curls skyward from cook fires, fragile and gray, disappearing into the pale belly of a sky, still unsure whether to storm or shine. The smell of boiled marrow and cedar resin clings to the air. Inside one of the shelters, a woman fastens a rawhide strap across her shoulder, her face unreadable. Her name is Buffalo Calf Road Woman, and today she will become a song. Her hands are quick, practiced. She threads bone through the fringe of her leggings, tightens the cords around her moccasins, secures her brother's bow to the side of her mount. The horse, white-muzzled, gray-eyed, shifts restlessly beneath her. It senses something its rider does not show. She turns once to the lodge. A child sleeps there, curled against a fir, breathing the heavy sleep of innocence. A man, her husband, watches her from the doorway. He does not speak. They have already said what matters. The voiceover is low now, reverent, telling not of generals or tactics, but of a woman who rides for memory, for love, for the world before it is broken. Buffalo Calf Road. Woman moves through the camp like a ghost braided in with the living. Others are readying themselves, men painting their faces with red clay and charcoal, women binding wounds that have not yet been made. Elders burn sweetgrass in silence, eyes closed, lips moving in prayer. The drums continue, now joined by rattles, chants, the sharp call of a raven overhead. Beyond the valley, dust rises. Custer's cavalry rides with the sun on their backs. Their uniforms are crisp, their rifles polished. They believe they ride into a decisive hour, an act of control, of taming. But the earth has already turned against them. Their maps do not show the folds of the land where warriors wait. Their orders do not account for the visions. They do not know the women who ride beside the warriors. They do not know Buffalo Calf Road woman. And they do not see the moment she closes her eyes and whispers to herself, not a prayer, but a remembering. The village stretches across the valley, larger than any they have ever imagined. Children laugh as they chase dogs between the lodges. The river glistens beside them, unaware it will soon run red. The cavalry approaches the bluffs, the dust from their horses rising like smoke from a false altar. And then it begins. A single shot breaks the rhythm of the drums. There is no warning cry, only sudden fire. Warriors rise from the grass, from behind rocks, from within the very folds of the hills. Painted horses surge forward, hooves tearing at the earth. Arrows fly, smoke thickens, and the drums, faster now, pulse like a heart that has begun to break. Buffalo Calf Road. Woman does not wait for permission. She rides, the wind slicing past her, her braids lifting like streamers of shadow behind her. Her eyes search the smoke not for enemies, but for her brother. She finds him, fallen, surrounded. She screams, a high, piercing sound that cuts through gunfire, and rides into the fire. The cavalry does not see her until it is too late. She lifts her brother onto her mount, shielding him with her body, turning in a single motion that is both retreat and defiance. Bullets miss her by inches. A saber flashes past her stirrup. She is untouched, but she does not stop. She does not ride for safety. She turns again, toward the center, toward the circle of fighting where names will be unmade and rewritten. Her lance is raised, and when it falls, it strikes not blindly, but with memory behind it. It is said, by those who remember, by those who listen, that it was her blow that unseated Custer, that it was her charge that split the command like rotten wood, that in the turning of her horse, a war began to end. The battle rages around her, but her song rises through it. It is not a melody sung with lips. It is a melody made of motion, of defiance, of the sound of hoofbeats over the bones of ancestors. And when it ends, when the guns go quiet, when the valley breathes again in silence, Buffalo Calf Road woman does not raise her arms in victory. She kneels beside her brother, wraps his arm around her shoulder, and helps him to walk. The smoke lifts. The sun breaks through. The battlefield is littered not only with bodies, but with buttons, torn pages, shattered rosaries. A single feather turns slowly in a pool of blood. Buffalo Calf Road, woman walks past it, eyes on the ridge where her husband waits. She does not look back. The voiceover quiets. Her name is not on the monuments. Her image is not carved into stone. But her story has weight. It lives in the lullabies sung by her descendants, in the footsteps of women who fight not with steel but with memory, in the silence that follows every drumbeat just before the next begins. And so the camera rises up over the valley, over the river, over the scaffold of her people's past. The sun sets now, not as an end, but as an echo. The song does not end here. It changes key. It prepares for what comes next. No wind, no birds, not even the crickets dare to cry. The prairie stands still as a breath held too long, stretched beneath the white sun like skin over bone. The grass, once wild, once tall, lays flat beneath boot and hoof, pressed down by too much weight, too many stories. It is the kind of silence that feels planned, deliberate, like the pause before a knife is drawn. And in the middle of that silence, the 7th Cavalry waits. They have come far, through heat, through hunger, through the bite of rattlesnakes and sleepless nights. But this is something else. This is not exhaustion. This is expectation. Something sacred and terrible about to break. The camera drifts over the column. Sabers glint like shards of frost. Uniforms are creased with sweat. Dust clinging to every thread like regret. A young private, barely 17, fingers a coin in his pocket, a St. Benedict medallion sent by his mother. He clutches it without meaning to, as though the weight of iron could summon comfort. Another man chews the last scrap of tobacco he owns. It tastes like ash. And at the front of the formation, Custer. He sits proud and still, spine straight as a blade, eyes locked on the horizon. There is no doubt in him, only something sharper. Not courage, not confidence, but a hunger. He scans the hills like a man hunting something he believes he deserves. Destiny, maybe. Redemption. Or simply the silence that always follows applause. A Crow scout rides beside the rear. He is older than most, wiser than all. His name has been lost in the white men's ledgers, but his eyes see what they will not. He watches the ridge, listens to the stillness, feels the wrongness in the air. He wants to speak, but he does not because he fears reprisal, but because it will not change what has already begun. Beyond the ridge, the valley stretches open, a soft bowl of green littered with cottonwood and willows. But there are no cattle, no signs of movement, no birds, only smoke curling in strands too faint to follow. And that is the trap. The voiceover slows now, reverent. The battlefield is not empty. It breathes. Thousands of Lakota and Cheyenne warriors lie hidden in the folds of the land, beneath painted shields and sagebrush, their hearts beating in time with the soil. They have waited for this moment, not for days, but for generations. For the treaties broken, for the children stolen, for the Black Hills scarred with gold miners and broken promises. For memory. The narration folds into a hush. There is no glory here, only ghosts rising. A boy among the Lakota stirs, his fingers pressed into the dirt. He is not yet a man. His war paint is still wet. His father watches from nearby, saying nothing, only nodding once. The boy closes his eyes. Beneath the tips of his fingers, he feels the weight of every ancestor who ever bled for this earth. A drumbeat sounds, one, then two, then silence again. Custer raises his hand. The bugle calls. It is too loud for a morning like this. The charge begins. The sound of hooves erupts, like thunder from the earth, like judgment. Men shout, rifles rise, dust storms in their wake, but the line does not move as one. It fractures, bends, stutters. The hills are wrong, the visibility poor, and there are too many eyes watching from beneath the ground. Then the arrows fly. Not a volley, but a wave. From nowhere and everywhere, warriors rise, painted with ochre and soot, hair braided, weapons ready. They do not scream. They do not cheer. They fight with the quiet precision of men and women defending breath, defending memory. One fires an arrow into the chest of a soldier who never saw him. Another rides past a column, dragging a spear that tears through canvas and bone alike. The charge breaks. Men fall, not in formation, but in pieces. A lieutenant calls for retreat, but there is no direction that is not surrounded. Buglers scream into brass, but their music is drowned by war cries, by the thunder of hooves, by the sound of Custer's legacy burning. Custer himself rides in loops now. No longer leading, only orbiting collapse. His horse is bleeding from the flank. His face is calm, still fixed on the illusion of control. But the men who followed him have lost sight of his banner, and the valley no longer answers to his command. The camera tightens on one moment. A soldier drops his rifle and begins to run, not toward safety, just away. His hat is gone, his coat torn. He runs into the tall grass, past the bones of an elk, past a fallen comrade whose face is already unrecognizable. He stumbles, falls, weeps. Not far from him, a Lakota warrior halts. He does not raise his weapon. He watches the man cry, and then he turns away. Because even in battle, there is a line that is not worth crossing. The voiceover softens now. There is a silence beneath the screams, an ancient quiet, filled not with peace but with certainty. This was never a fair fight, not because of numbers, but because the land had already chosen. It remembered who belonged. As the day bleeds forward, the cavalry is undone. What began as a march toward glory ends in dust, in fire, in stories whispered by survivors too haunted to speak above a whisper. And when the sun begins to fall, when the sky turns the color of old bruises, the land grows still again. A Lakota woman walks the field. Her shawl is heavy with blood. She carries water, her mouth firm, her eyes unreadable. She does not look away from the fallen. She steps around the dead, around weapons abandoned, around the medals and maps that once carried meaning. Near her feet lies a broken bugle, its bell cracked, silent. The boy from earlier kneels beside his father now. He touches the elder's hand and presses it to his forehead. The drumbeat returns, soft, distant. 1, 2, silence. And in that silence, the camera lifts, following the wind over the valley, over the broken lines of the 7th Cavalry, over the blood-wet grasses where names were lost and memory was carved. This is not the end. But something has ended, and the story that comes next will not be told in triumph. It will be told in funerals, in erasure, in names removed from textbooks. But for now, the valley sleeps, and the silence is not peace. It is memory, waiting. The wind does not howl, it sighs, long and low, dragging dust across the battlefield like fingers across a burial shroud. There is no bird song, only the hollow whistle of air slipping through dead grass. The noise of men, of horses, of rifles is gone. What remains is breathless stillness, thick with powder and grief. A tattered flag, once stitched to the hand of a cavalryman, lies caught in a thorn bush. Its edge is torn, its colors faded to earth tones, indistinguishable from the landscape that now claims it. The bodies have not yet cooled. Steam rises from open wounds. Flies have already begun to gather. There is no victory here. Not in the valley where the grass has been pressed flat by hoof and blood. Not in the hearts of the warriors who survived. They walk the field not with triumph, but with the weight of ritual. Each step measured, each breath tethered to the sacred rhythm of grief. Among them walks a girl, not yet a woman, her braids dark with soot, her hands scarred from splinters and stone. She carries a basket woven of willow, inside it a thin cloth soaked in river water. She kneels beside the fallen, one after the other, wipes the blood from cheekbones, from eyelids, from the open mouths frozen mid-cry. She does not know their names, but she tends them as kin, because the land knows, and the land remembers. Near the river, where reeds bend in prayer, elders gather in a circle. They burn sweetgrass, their chants rising with the smoke. They do not speak of Custer. They do not utter his name. Not out of fear, but because the name has no power here. It lies buried beneath arrogance, beneath steel, beneath the weight of a war that had already been lost long before the first bugle call. The voiceover softens now, winding into the story's ache. There is a young Cheyenne boy, no older than 10, tracing the outline of a boot print in the dirt. It belongs to no one now. The man who wore it has been returned to the earth, but the boy presses his palm into the shape as if to steal the memory of footfall. He carries a question he cannot voice. What happens when even names are defeated? Custer is gone. His uniform torn, his buttons scattered like offerings to the soil. Some say he died with dignity. Others say he begged. But none of it matters here. The land swallowed him without favor. His blood mingled with that of his enemies, soaked into the grass without preference. In this place, even the famed die nameless. Overhead, vultures wheel, drawn not by conquest, but by silence. A woman finds her husband's body near a broken rifle. She does not scream. She kneels, cuts a lock of his hair with obsidian, wraps it in deer hide, places it over her heart. Then she leaves him, untouched, to return to the wind. The ritual is not loud. It is not grand, but it is holy. Somewhere along the ridge, a horse cries out, wounded, not yet dead. A warrior approaches. He murmurs something low in Lakota. The horse quiets. One shot. Then mercy. The sound echoes like a forgotten bell. The cavalry camp, abandoned in haste, sits in eerie stillness. Tents half collapsed, food uneaten, a Bible left open to the Psalms. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but the page is torn. The next line unreadable. Carried off by wind. Among the debris, a woman finds a diary. Its cover is soft with blood. She opens it, reads names. Mary, Abigail, Ruth, a wife, a sister, a daughter. She folds the book and buries it beneath a stone, not to preserve it, but to quiet it. Some words were never meant to reach home. The camera lingers on a single shell casing, its brass dulled, its purpose spent. It lies beside a child's toy, hand-carved and broken, lost in the stampede. These are the relics left behind when empires falter. Not statues, not oaths, but small things, human things, forgotten things. And in the distance, the cottonwoods weep. Not with sound, but with shadow. Their branches move in rhythm with a wind that has seen too much. Beneath them, bones sleep, not yet buried, but claimed. The roots reach down, gently, greedily, as if eager to cradle what war could not protect. The sun begins to fall. Its light turns the valley gold, then red, then nothing. The day ends not with applause, but with breath, long, slow, ragged. As though the land itself exhales what history will not say, that the dead do not care for medals, that the land has no loyalty, that even legend is mortal. And as night folds over the earth, the first stars blink open. They do not look down with judgment, only memory. The warriors leave the field, one by one. They carry no trophies, only silence. Behind them, the dust stirs. It rises from hoofprint and bootstep, from the places where rifles fell and hearts stopped. It swirls in the air like incense. It moves like a ghost with no name. And then it settles, over the ridge, over the flag, over the bones, over the name that was once shouted across nations and now cannot be spoken without pause. The dust buries everything, but beneath it, the story waits, still breathing.